What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, we got to go over the PS Plus talk that's going around today. An excellent article from Steven Totillo on GameFile, a free-to-all-to-read type article, so that's great. And so he was talking about PlayStation Plus. Obviously, PlayStation is celebrating 15 years of it, and I think they're having a pretty good month, by the way. They just announced the games of like Diablo 4 being an absolutely massive one, right, to add. And there's a lot here. You know, they talk about the pricing. They re-say again, like, no first-party games, but they do say kind of their mentality behind it and the time period they want to add them. They talk about third-party games. They talk about why they take games off of it, which I think is really, really interesting. So I just kind of want to go over. I mean, you can read the entire thing if you want to yourself. I did, and I just kind of want to pick apart some of the main things to me. So, I mean, one big thing is they talk about the growth, right? They say premium has grown 18% in the last 12 months. They don't do numbers just like Xbox. Game Pass stuff, we've only heard the number because of I think some people's job profiles have accidentally said it at points, but they don't say it. PlayStation doesn't say it. I think the estimate is 45-ish million are on PS Plus. Most of them, I think, still are not on the higher tiers. I think only 40% are on the higher tiers, so almost half. I think PlayStation likes that because of how expensive they are, right? But it's seeing growth. People are doing it more. People are playing more games. I think they've talked about this year is up, right, in terms of I guess hours put into the games that are on the subscription service. So things are growing, and it's exactly kind of what they want it to be. So they talk about first party and third party, and they say for first party, still no, they're not going to put first party games on it. They were pushed by Steven to say, well, what if a Concord, right? And I don't think this would have worked, by the way, and it's an interesting philosophy. But he asked hey, well, Helldivers didn't need help, right? Helldivers 2 came out. It didn't need to be on PS Plus. It was a huge success. Have you ever thought of putting some live service games basically on PS Plus to help them? And they said no. They said that's not something that they want to do. And it's I mean, Helldivers, you probably don't want to put it on PS Plus because of how much money it made the developers and then also PlayStation and Sony, right? So it's they made the right move there. I don't know, the thing for me, the numbers probably would jump a little. Again, when you have 35 million on Game Pass and 45 or whatever on PlayStation, number one, you're not getting all those people, right? I mean, there's been games that have come out on Game Pass that'll say get 500,000 to 1 million people on Game Pass, and it's that's 1/35 of the entire subscription, right? And that should show you how diverse the group is. And actually, they say this in this article of all the different kinds of people that get the subscription service, right? You're not going to please all of them. You kind of do a wide range of games, right, that maybe will please some of them, but maybe not others. So I guess point being, you put Concord on it, and maybe you get 1 million or 2 eyes on it, but I don't think a bad game is going to still be bad and a good game is still going to be good. You hope that good games, you play it through the service and then you buy it. You hope you can push people towards that. A bad game, you hope that people will play it for a week and then never come back. It's like that. I can understand why they don't do it. Now they say, for again, first party games, they're in that groove of 12 months, a year to a year and a half. And they said they found a lot of success putting new games, a year to a year and a half on it. Their own games, first party games, right? Then they say for third party games, they've obviously picked a couple this year already. Blueprints and FBC Firebreak are their examples. And they say, basically every year they kind of target 4 to 5 games that are in that ilk. And they do say that's not locked in. They're willing to go higher if that happens. It's interesting because it's well, what needs to happen? You're saying you could go higher, but well, what is Ninja Gaiden? Is Xbox going higher, right? They chose Ninja Gaiden 4. I mean, they helped them, but it's so does a company have to come to PlayStation? Does PlayStation have to just see something they like in a different game? I honestly think it's just what makes sense, because the subscription services being free, a game being free on them, does not work for every game. A lot of games need that money, and what they can offer as a contract to put it on the service, I highly doubt can always match what the company wants to make, right? So it's about finding that balance. I don't know if you could find 6, 7, 8 games a year that would be willing to do it, but 4 or 5, they could. So then they talk about old stuff, right? Basically how they put these old games on it. And, the PS3 one, that was a big one that I saw a lot of people talking about online. So they bring up the PS3 because very few, if any, PS3 games have been added in 2025. But but they say through streaming, we'll still continue to look at those ones. We haven't ruled them out. The opportunities are there, but there are a lot of PS3 games already streaming. They talk about the older games than that, right? PS1 to PSP. They try to do at least one a month, and they have an emulation team that works on it. They don't want to basically kill them and overwork them, so one a month seems like a good balance. And going to that PS3 one, just for like my own personal feel on that, I feel like that shows their hand. I think there's a lot of fake people on social media, Twitter specifically, insiders, right, that I don't think know what they're talking about, and oftentimes they'll bring up, like, look, I want PS3 emulation to be a thing, okay? And we've heard it. We've heard multiple people, a couple people in particular, though I can think of that I won't name names, say, oh, it's already happening. Oh, it's going to be done at this point, that point. Like, that line right there does not sound like it's coming. That line, because why would you say, yeah, through streaming? Oh, it's through streaming. Oh, we're not going to, they don't bring up emulation, but they make a very big point to say, yeah, well, how we plan on bringing it is still through streaming. And look, we know PS3 was hard to develop games on. We know PS3 games are hard to bring over, but we've talked about it so many times. There's so many games trapped on the PS3 still to this day. It still takes years to do this. It takes years still to bring like Metal Gear Solid 4, which Konami is working on, but like even that's difficult, right? So it's like, I get it. I get it's hard, but like, I don't know. I feel like that shows your hand, and it's like, yeah, we'll always just do it through streaming. And it's like, no, I think the people that really care about it knows that that's not the way. I think like general people, whatever, people that'll maybe pick up Infamous 1 or 2 and play it for 10 minutes. I think like the people that are really serious about like the PS3 games coming over, I think we all know like doing it the way that they're doing it is not the way to go. So hopefully they listen. They do say at the end of the article that they read the PlayStation blog comments, which are generally very negative, and I don't think speaks for everyone. I've seen really good months on PS Plus, and the comments are still terrible. So it's like, I don't know, I wouldn't beat yourself up too much for the comments on the PlayStation blog. I'd look elsewhere, to be honest with you, for criticism of your stuff. So the big one to me is, so they talk about like getting rid of games, and I'm really happy that he brought this up. Literally in the article, he says, some games, on the other hand, leave the service. That has included some first-party games, such as 2 PS3 Resistance games from Insomniac and Sucker Punch's PS4 debut, Infamous Second Son, which were removed. I'm so happy he brought that up, because it's like, yeah, push on that, right? So he said, McGuire said, such delistings are about balance. We've got 80 collections of games across the catalog, so we want to keep it fresh and bring in new games. Sometimes that means taking a few games out at the same time to keep the proposition interesting and help people find new games as well. And that's something he brought back up early in the article. I skipped it with adding games, like what games they pick to add month to month. They try to go for ranges, right? They try to go for, and that's the thing I've always talked about, right? It's like, hey, a bad month for one might not be a bad month for another, right? Or it's like, if you ever add a Call of Duty, or, like you're adding a Diablo, say, for this one, and like, I think to some people, you're going to look at that and say, that's not my month, but I think you have to realize that millions of people have gotten Diablo already, and it's a huge you know what I mean? Even if it's not directly up your alley, it is a big one. You can see why they would target something like that. So I don't know, when they put in a fighting game or a racing game or this or that, it's like, even if it's not always my thing, I think I can still recognize, oh, I can understand that's a big game for that grouping of people, right? And then, that's how they, and I'm okay with that, by the way, for their excuse of adding games. I'm not, like, using that excuse to get rid of games. I'm not okay with what I just read. Okay, what I just read out loud here, I don't think that's a good excuse at all. These are games that you own. These are games that are, again, in some cases, like Resistance, which I'm happy he brought up, they are trapped. The Resistance games are trapped on PS3. People nowadays are not going to go fire up their PS3. I have a PS3, and I have all 3 Resistance games, okay? So it's like, I can and I will, but many people will not. So I just don't understand, like, again, they talk about balance. You don't need balance when they're your own games. That my own personal heavy opinion there, that you don't need that. When you own the games and they're on your service, you never take them off. Because why would you? Why would you take off Resistance? And those are 2, and I think I made videos specifically when those got taken off on this channel. I was so mad. And it's like, yeah, thanks for bringing it back up. But, why would you do that? They're not hurting a balance. They're not hurting anybody or anything by by being up there. So that, I will say, maybe somebody put that on the PlayStation blog, maybe because that's the only place they read the criticism. That's unacceptable. To me, that's absolutely unacceptable. That I get you're going for a balance, and you probably want to look at the service and say, okay, are we servicing all of these different groups? But when they're your own games, and specifically if they're games that are trapped, and I think Resistance more than Second Son, obviously, it's a whole nother generation. It's like, why in God's name would you think to take off those? Like, just leave, like, is it hurting you to leave them on? I don't think it is. I mean, they're PS3 streaming games that you just talked about, right? So it's like, I don't know. That really upset me. And I'm pretty sure that's it. Pretty insightful. Like, I'm really glad he made this article and he got these. I mean, they're not amazing answers, but, the philosophy and all that kind of stuff. Pretty darn interesting. Just very much not happy with that last part there. But hey, well, whatever. That's just my opinion on it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Make sure, as always, you're subscribed to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.